Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the Prime Minister's visit to China. Of course, he's expected to be there from the 4th to the 8th of June. This visit is going to be, as far as the focus is concerned, it's going to be on Pakistan-China relations, but also investment, also as far as economy is concerned, to boost bilateral relationship, and with the background of economic ties between the two countries in pursuant to investment goals as far as Pakistan is concerned. We've also seen earlier visits of the Prime Minister, and this is again a visit that is targeting more investment within Pakistan, economic ties, and of course the second phase of CPEC particularly. We'll be talking about the visit and what it means for Pakistan, what is on the agenda, all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr. Talat Shabbir. He's Director, China-Pak Study Center, ISSI. Thank you for being with us. We also have Zia Banday, who's an economist. Thank you for joining us. And Barrister Talha, who's an IR expert. Thank you for being with us today. Dr. Talha, let me start off with you. Overall, as far as Pakistan and China, we do have a long-standing relationship. We are all-weather friends. We have, of course, economic ties with the background of CPEC. And that, of course, has meant, of course, our ties have been stronger. We've also gone through a lot of challenges, and those have made our bond stronger. One would have to say. Would you agree with that?
I'm not hearing you properly. There's some problem.
Dr. Talat, can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
Yes, I was so basically what I was saying was that we have a long-standing relationship. We are, all-weather friends. We do have a bond, and that in the background of CPEC. CPEC is very important to both Pakistan and China. And we've also seen a lot of challenges, which I believe, and I think generally, the truth is that it's made the bond between Pakistan and China only stronger. Would you agree with that? Dr. Talat? Let me go to Zia Banday. I think there's a problem with audio. Zia Sab, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Zia Sab, I'm talking, particularly with regard to this visit, but also our relationship with China and, our goal as far as investment, boosting economic ties are concerned with the background of CPEC. Would you agree that the challenges recently also we've seen, of course, we've been the target of terrorism, and of course, China has stood by Pakistan through it all. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think so. As far as the convergence on this terrorism issues are concerned, China has the same concern, and it has a similar policy. If you see, not only with Pakistan, across the world also, it is a very zero tolerance policy on terrorism, and it has neither used terrorism as a tool also against its opponents. So it has a very clear policy on that end, and it always supports Pakistan in all its up and downs. And that is what at the state level. I mean to say that's what is important for us to understand, that when you're talking about economic cooperation, so there are two parts to it. One part which you are talking about is the security issue, that is at the state level. But the more important part between the relationship between countries, it is on the.
Let me go to Dr. Talat. I think he's with us now. Dr. Talat, is the audio better? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, I think it is better now.
Dr. Talat, we were talking about the relationship with Pakistan and China with the background of this visit particularly. How would you look at it? How do you, as far as our economic ties are concerned, with the background of CPEC, which has seen considerable challenges? Whether we to any government, all governments have, of course, prioritized CPEC. As far as the Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif Saab is concerned, overall, there is an emphasis on ensuring, that we meet all the deadlines, we meet all the timelines as far as CPEC is concerned, its second phase is concerned. In that sense, how do you see this visit?
Yes, Pakistan's Prime Minister's China visit, which is being conducted next week,
is very important. And since this is the first visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif after he took over as Prime Minister this time. Hello?
Gigi, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I think this is a milestone visit of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to China, and because it's his first visit after he took over as Prime Minister. So I think when we look at what we are going to get out of this visit is very important. Because there is a relationship between Pakistan and China, which is a all-weather cooperative strategic partnership that is actually defines this relationship. So it's very important that various aspects which are political, economic, connectivity, business, and various other aspects, regional issues, a host of issues will be discussed during this meeting. So it is very important that Pakistan looks at it as an important visit to China. Similarly, China would also expect a lot from Pakistan, and because the Chinese believe that Pakistan needs to work on maybe capacity issues with regard to CPEC, maybe security issues with regard to safety and security of Chinese individuals in Pakistan, and various other issues. But I think this visit is aimed at looking at an all-weather cooperative partnership and driving it further. Of course, it would be priority with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to seek a kind of a cooperation on CPEC with focus on high-quality development, because Chinese are now looking at projects with the prism of high-quality development. That is very important. And then there are other, issues like global and regional issues that can also be part of this
I want to talk more about that,
between
of course, as far as global issues are concerned, as far as international issues are concerned. I'll just come back to you. Let me go to Barrister Talha Khawaja here in the studio. Ji, Barrister Talha, there is, as far as Pakistan and China ties are concerned, with the recent challenges, security challenges that we've seen, of course, China has gone all out in support of Pakistan. We've also laid it quite, categorical to, for example, the Afghan government and the perpetrators of terrorism, where Afghan soil is also being used in that sense. We also have a hostile neighbor. For China to stand with us in all these circumstances, how do you look at this, and how from here on, what do you expect the pace of this phase 2 of CPEC? Do you expect it to get, perhaps more efficient? Because we've also seen, as far as the leadership at this time, as far as the PMLN, earlier on also, their government, the focus was always CPEC.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the backdrop that you have set up, there's two very important reasons why this visit is so critically important. Firstly, I think that the security of Chinese personnel, the workers that are working here as part of the CPEC, we've seen recent attacks on them, and I think China, obviously any country would not appreciate it, and China especially does not appreciate it, where we see this friendship as ironclad, where we see it as more important than anything in our foreign policy. So I think that Pakistan, when it goes this time, the delegation needs to reassure China that security will be a real priority, and this shouldn't just stop at talks. There should be a real security plan that should be devised.
As far as the industrialization focus is concerned, of course, when we talk about launching of the second phase of CPEC, it focuses on industrialization.
Of course,
With regard to that, the delegation that is going to go with the Prime Minister also is expected to include, industrialists and economists in that regard. Do you expect there to be quick, action with regard to this initiative as far as industrialization is concerned?
I think the ball is largely in Pakistan's court as far as that is concerned, because 9 special economic zones were planned since the start of CPEC. It has been almost more than a decade, and we've only completed 3. So this move from an agricultural based economy to an industrial based economy is something that obviously will come with the help of China, but needs to come through the sincere efforts of the Pakistani government.
And that is what you expect the focus to be with regard to this visit?
No doubt. I mean, of course, CPEC is an all-encompassing project. It looks at the geopolitical landscape as well, but the real benefit that is coming out of it is the economic benefit. And I think that that is something that Pakistan needs to focus on. Over the past few years, we've seen our strategic interest and our policy makers go from hard policy or hard power to essentially soft power and looking more at our economic benefits that we can achieve through our geopolitical
Let me go to Dr.
advantages.
Talat. Dr. Talat, can you hear me? Zia Saab, there is, as far as the pace is concerned, do you think that when we talk about industrialization, when we talk about ensuring that, we pick up as far as this phase 2 is concerned, do you think we've conclusively, effectively laid the groundwork, or are we still working towards it, in your opinion?
Just look at the figures. I mean to say, I'm an economist. I will talk in terms of figures. In the last 9 years, the Chinese have invested about $1.5 trillion in outward investments. And out of that, only 3% has come to Pakistan. And bulk of that 3%, I mean to say $50 billion, and bulk of that money has gone into the energy sector and infrastructure sector. And what are the companies which are working in China? They are mostly state-owned companies, large companies. So where exactly the industrial investment is coming into the country? It comes by the mid-tier Chinese companies. The companies which are driving investments, I mean to say this $1.5 trillion investment, they are driven not only by large companies, but if you look in Africa, in Latin America, and Asian countries, it is driven by the mid-tier Chinese companies. Do you find mid-tier Chinese companies in Pakistan? Unfortunately, not. Those companies are not coming to Pakistan. And what is the problem? The problem is security in Pakistan. Problem is your high cost of business in Pakistan, the energy issues, the volatile exchange rate issues. Look, China is not giving you anything philanthropy. They have
let me go to Barrister Talha. Let me go to Dr. Talat Shabbir. I think there's a problem with audio again. Dr. Talat, there is what Zia was essentially saying. He was saying that, there have been challenges for Pakistan. We have, we are of course trying to ride through them. We are dealing with them. There is a resolve in Pakistan, the government, the security forces, the army, to ensure that the Chinese are provided with the kind of safe space they need to further phase 2 of CPEC. Do you think that with regard to this, perhaps as far as, the pace will be picked up now, the groundwork that is needed to ensure that phase 2 of CPEC comes through in a speedy manner is being laid? Dr. Talat? I hope you heard what Barrister Dr. Talat, I asked the same thing, overall, you think that we are effectively laying the groundwork for this?
I think at the forefront, what is important is Pakistan needs to communicate its financial situation very clearly to China. It needs to communicate the fact that we are under Western pressure, we are under the IMF pressure, and as a result of which a new policy needs to be devised as to how we can go forward with CPEC, keeping all of this in mind. But I think it's not just something that should be again limited to talks, but it's something that Pakistan should commit to in terms of the structural economic reforms that it wants to bring about. And those economic reforms essentially would look like not having any populist reforms whenever, or not having any populist measures whenever a new government comes into power.
But when we talk about economic reform, of course, we have seen, as far as the new government is concerned, there is a resolve to move towards economic reform with the promulgation of the Economic Council, special, CIFC. There is a renewed effort being made with regard to those economic reforms. So you think there's going to be effective change there?
I think it's a very positive step, the Special Investment Facilitation Council, but what I think needs to happen is, because the current SIFC model that we have, does not have making a decision implementing power. So I think the 5 things that are very necessary is minimizing bureaucratic red tape that exists within Pakistan, which basically reduces our power to have bring in investment in Pakistan. We also need to staff SIFC with very good economic experts that can give economic guidance, not bureaucratic guidance. And thirdly, I think we need to grant SIFC decision-making power, decision implementing power, so that those experts that sit in SIFC know what is essentially good for the economy, and then they can implement it. And finally, I think we need to coordinate the SIFC with security forces in order to encourage the investment, in order to make investors feel that Pakistan is essentially a good investment spot and an opportunity.
Dr. Talat, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Dr. Talat, there is, we're just talking about the fact that, essentially laying the groundwork for what's happening, phase 2 that we are talking about, for industrialization that we are talking about, for the kind of economic reform Barrister Talha here is talking about. Do you think that we are at that stage that we can now effectively, go towards that reform that will necessitate then perhaps a speedier phase 2 for CPEC?
Right. I think the phase 2 of CPEC was the phase that we expected a lot from, because it was to create jobs for people. It was to relocate industry into Pakistan, and it would, of course, revive our industries, and of course, it would enhance our exports. This is very important. But for the past few years, we have seen that things were not working well for CPEC, particularly phase 2, where industry was required to be relocated to Pakistan. Now, this government, I must appreciate there's some innovative steps being taken by this government, like there is a concept being advocated, and that concept is upgraded version of CPEC. Now, when we talk of upgraded version of CPEC, we talk of job creation, we talk of innovation, we talk of green energy, and we also talk of inclusive development. Now, this is the concept. There's a concept of upgraded version of CPEC, and I think this is a new idea, and we can be more focused on various things. And also, Mr. Ahsan Iqbal, who is heading the Ministry of Planning Commission, he also suggested a framework with one of his Chinese counterparts, that they should focus on 5E framework. Now, that is very important and very interesting, and that is export, energy, equity, e-Pakistan, and environment. So I think they have now a different approach towards how this phase 2 should happen, because we have seen that we were just looking for industries to come to relocate. It didn't happen. We were looking for exports to grow. Of course, they can't grow unless we have industries relocated and the production starts. So there are many hiccups in that very traditional kind of SEZ's development. So there's a lot of fresh thinking on how these SEZs should be established. For example, another concept is very good concept. I think if we work on these concepts, they can bear some fruits. Like Mr. Ahsan Iqbal has suggested 1+4 concept of SEZ. Now, 1+4 means that there's a SEZ being established in Pakistan, and it is connected to a province of China. It is connected to an industry group in China. It is also connected to one SEZ in China, to give some expert advice. And it is also connected to one state-owned enterprise from China. Now, one SEZ from Pakistan and 4 various entities from Pakistan. Now, this is again a good concept. This is a great concept. If we are able to connect our SEZs with the kind of entities that are in the stage by Planning Commission, so what it is going to do is that we will have expertise, we'll have funds, maybe we have plans, and above all, we have technical advice, and I think it will also bring focus. Previously, the practice, since I'm not economist, but I was looking at how these SEZs are being dealt with. So I could never think of, there's any one of the SEZ picking up a pace that China was actually looking at CPEC to, drive. So I think with this government in place, there is fresh thinking, there is, realistic thinking, there is a pragmatic thinking in the leadership, particularly who are related to CPEC. And I expect that there is going to be some strategy, some plans, and some approaches whereby you can, move your plans. Chinese, they don't talk in the air. They are very practical, very very practical and objective people. They just don't like their efforts to go in the air. So with these plans, with these thinking in the ministries and the relevant departments, I think there is going to be a change, because traditionally looking traditionally at SEZs, the way we were looking at for the last 5 years, was not actually making any headway. With these fresh thinking, I think we will have something good coming up. Of course, one thing that I always stress is that we need to put certain order in the institutions or entities dealing with CPEC. For example, I was a very strong supporter of CPEC authority, because I have been seeing people have been communicating to me, and since I focus on CPEC and SEZs, so there was Chinese concern that there's no coordinating body in your country. We have to deal with center, we have to deal with the province, we have to deal with the local government. So there's a long pipeline that we have to deal. So they were actually not very happy with the kind of lengthy processes that we had. So we need to create a body, we need to create a mechanism whereby we can quickly and swiftly do what actually Chinese want to do here. That is that we can help establish these SEZs. And I think phase 2, with new thinking and new approach, and of course must
please stay with us. Let me come back to you. I want to include Zia Sab in this, if he can hear me now. Zia Sab, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Zia Sab, there is, I think some of the things that Dr. Talat mentioned, and he said, of course, acknowledges he's not an economist. So I said, I'll refer this to you. As far as economy itself is concerned, there has been concern, but things seem to have over time, and particularly now, under this government, stabilized. Do you think that, with regard to the kind of reform, economic reform that have been on the agenda, with regard to the CIFC also, more than SIFC, the SIFC also, there is a change now, and there is a moving towards those reforms that are needed to ensure that again, we have that platform, we have that soil, we have that the raw material, the environment that is needed for the Chinese to be able to complete CPEC phase 2.
Let me start with my own experience, okay? Here you're talking about centralized SIFCs and all these to attract investment, to facilitate Chinese. It is a non-starter, I tell you very frankly. I lived in China for a year, okay? I've made my own company over there. I worked with Chinese, and I tell you one thing, there is no central thing in China. When I formed my company, who gave me the permission, or where I got my permission and all those licenses? It was from the municipality of the city. I got it from the municipality. So do you think that in a China, which is a country of 1.4 billion people, any investor, American or Australian or Pakistani for that matter, from any country, if they go to China, they will go to Beijing? No, ma'am, they are not going to go to Beijing. They are going to that respective province or the respective city where they are going to talk to that municipality to establish their businesses over there.
I understand what you're saying. But
what is important for
you? What my question essentially is that we have to give them, at our end, the kind of stability, the kind of economic reform that they've been asking for a while now. They've been on the agenda also. Do you think, broadly speaking, whether centralized or not, do you think, broadly speaking, we might be moving towards them?
Okay. They are investing in Africa. They are investing in Latin America. There are many countries we don't have a political stability over there also, but they are investing. What they're offering? They're offering them, and what Pakistan is not offering them. It's a very, very simple thing. Pakistan is not offering them a security. you know, I've been to Africa. These Chinese, they are roaming around in those countries. Okay, with those security.
You're saying that the security challenges that we face as a nation because of actions and because of, you know, perpetrators of terrorism like a hostile neighbor India and Afghanistan, of course, that soil of Afghanistan being used, are the real challenges in your opinion as far as phase 2 is concerned. Am I right?
I mean to say these are challenges have not emerged today. Okay, and these challenges many countries are facing, but they are having the investments also because they have kept their cities at least safe from these terrorists. But we are unable, we have failed to save Chinese from the terrorist attacks till now. Whenever the terrorists.
I understand. Let me come back to you. Dr. Talat, as far as the security challenges are concerned, we have seen, you know, over time, as far as Pakistan is concerned, at our end, as far as our geostrategic position is concerned, I think Zia would agree with this, that there are certain issues as far as having a hostile neighbor like India is concerned. Again, you know, the kind of state that Afghanistan is in, there is soil to be used, you know, their government, its weaknesses, its inability to control terrorism that is coming from there are of course some of the factors that have led to you know, the situation with regard to security. But there is our, you know, as far as our security situation, our security you know, forces are concerned, our government is concerned, there is a clear resolve and there is a clear you know, action is being taken to ensure that that security is there. And that, in your opinion, should change things, no?
I mean, of course, that's the primary concern. If security is being provided, there really shouldn't be a problem for attracting investment. But I think the reason why this visit becomes so important is because you also might have heard just a few weeks ago, there has been renewed interest in Afghanistan. And that's primarily because the Chinese government has been cooperating with the Taliban in order to open the Wakhan corridor as a way to, you know, access the Central Asian republics. And so I think when that happens, that means essentially a reduced importance of Pakistan. That is why this visit becomes so much more important, and so as a result of that, I think Pakistan needs to counter both its neighbors and essentially participate very properly with China in order to, you know, make these special economic zones successful.
Gigi, please continue.
Yes. So essentially, yes, I think India primarily is something that is very problematic. We've seen them taking part in Chabahar in order, as a result, as basically a measure to rebut CPEC in order to counter CPEC. They're basically something that's something that we need to take into account. Maybe perhaps include India into a program where they are basically taking part in CPEC and not working to sabotage it.
Right, fair enough. As far as the framework is concerned, we've also, like I said, the delegation is expected to include private industrialists also. Our integration, you know, with regard to, for example, you know, other businessmen in China, for example, that, you know, private public partnership, that model itself, or, you know, as far as their investment coming is concerned. With regard to that, do you expect us to make inroads? Because, you know, for MOUs, for example, to translate into real agreements for Pakistan, there's been a green light for a while, right?
Yes, I think that's very true. There has been a green light, but what is very important is essentially that these loss-making entities that Pakistan has, they need to be privatized. It is only then when a public-private partnership can work. If everything is publicly controlled and these are essentially loss-making entities, at the same time, wherever a Chinese businessman invests in Pakistan and he has to face those bureaucratic red tapes, he has to face all of those problems that comes with basically having a big or a lot of bureaucracy in the country.
So those issues have to be handled.
They essentially have to be handled. Just as an example, because by profession I'm a lawyer, I was registering a company with the SECP.
So there are issues, you're saying?
There's several issues.
Right.
So those
of course,
need
but
to
you
be
know,
worked
like
on.
Zia Sahab is saying, there are issues with all countries in the world, and of course, you know, third world countries, you know, in essence have their own problems. One has to agree with that. Dr. Talat, can you hear me? Ji, Dr. Talat?
Yes, I can hear you.
Dr. Talat, we talk about integration, as far as economic corridors, and they're aligning with, for example, planning ministries, framework which include export, energy, equity, environment, e-Pakistan, those kind of goals. Do you think that, as a country, perhaps, this is a time where we're moving towards those? Of course, we also have to keep the requirements of IMF in mind. We have to keep our own budget requirements in line with IMF. All of those things are extremely important, and Pakistan is struggling to ensure, with the resolve and commitment that this government has, to take us firmly into that era where we are looking at development, we are looking at real change for Pakistan. With this visit, what do you really expect?
Yeah, I think we are in a very difficult situation at the moment. And why difficult situation? Because we are struggling with our economy, we are struggling with our relationship with various Western countries. We are struggling to keep, dollar stable in our country. And there's lot of political and political mess that, actually drives these economic relationship of not only countries, but also institutions like IMF. I think it is very important because, as I said, I'm not an economist. Zia would be better guide on this subject. But I think we have to focus on certain very important reforms with regards to economy. We should not expect China to go all out or you resolve all our problems. I always say that CPEC is not solution to all our problems. We have to actually, yes, CPEC is a very good opportunity. CPEC is an opportunity of historic opportunity for Pakistan, where Pakistan can, potentially revive its economy. But CPEC is not solution to all our problems. We have to, I think, comprehensively see these issues. And of course, when there's a, globally, there's a political, competition going on between countries, and there's a China-US competition. Of course, IMF is an institution that has patronage of Western powers. So there's a kind of, this dichotomy will continue to persist because, there are problems, there are questions that IMF raises on Chinese funding in Pakistan, Chinese investment in Pakistan, or Chinese help extended in economic domain. So, and similarly, China believes in international institutions, their political moves are always, done keeping in view the international system, the current existing international system. But I think we have to solve our economic problems comprehensively, and we have to see various sensitivities attached to these because,
Let me go to Zia Sahab, I'll come back to you. Zia Sahab, as far as this visit is concerned, we've spoken about the challenges that Pakistan has to face, I think, in some detail. We've also spoken about, where our economic troubles lie. But as far as this visit is concerned, as an economist, what do you envisage and what do you see it targeting?
Look, biggest problem is this, and I think so, which will be the focus of the Prime Minister also, is rescheduling of Chinese loan. I'm not saying that China CPEC is responsible for all our problems, all our follies over here in the country. But the biggest challenge for them...
Zia Sahab, I'm actually not talking about the follies of the country. I'm more interested in talking about the visit and what you expect it to actually achieve for Pakistan. Yes, the loan is a part of it, I agree, but what do you expect it to achieve economically in terms of investment, which is one of those things that is right on the agenda as far as the delegation and the Prime Minister is concerned?
Already invested a lot of money in Pakistan. What Chinese are more interested is to safeguard their money in Pakistan. Rest of the investment, it is to pull by the private sector. Is your private sector productive enough? Is your private sector is competitive enough in front of Thailand or in front of Indonesia or in front of Kenya to compete for that money? So you don't have to beg Chinese. I mean to say Chinese, like one of my esteemed colleagues said, they are very pragmatic people. They have made money and they have proven to the world that how to make money. So they are not going to give you the money in alums. One thing is this, they've already invested a lot of money, and the second phase, it has to be driven. If the private sector is unable to attract them, they are unable to close deals with them, then you just have to pay them the money back, which they have given you in loans. I mean to say about 15 to 20 billion dollars, which is there in the loans. And it is not a big amount in terms of the total debt size of the country. We have about $130 billion debt. When CPEC started, we have $65 billion foreign debt.
In terms of our track record with the Chinese, they have shown a lot of support for Pakistan. If we look at, the past, we look at traditionally speaking. Again, do you expect this visit to achieve investment for Pakistan?
There will be no investments. There will be only good optics. That's what it is all about. We have to be realistic.
I think as far as Zia Saab is concerned, he's painting, I think, a very, one has to say, pessimistic picture. But if we look at the past, China has supported Pakistan unilaterally in some cases. Yes. It has, extended support when we needed it economically. It's also extended, in every field, and of course, economy is one of them. As far as, this translating into actuals for Pakistan, I think it's a very important visit in that regard and for bringing it home for Pakistan. Don't you agree?
I do agree in the sense that the main purpose of this visit is essentially to fast track the whole process of CPEC, which in the past 5 to 6 years we had seen slow down. And essentially, as Zia Saab had mentioned, optics, I think the important optic here is essentially showing to the world that China and Pakistan are, they're always friends, and China will always support Pakistan. No matter what Pakistan goes through, China is a country that will always stand by Pakistan and go with the investments that Pakistan that they have done in Pakistan as well.
Right, and of course, as far as the relationship with Pakistan and China is concerned, we are also looking at bilateral cooperation in other areas, not just economy. As far as CPEC is concerned, as far as economic assistance and regional integration is concerned, do you think that we are at a place where the Chinese also have now understood Pakistan? They understand the problems that invariably come because of our position, geostrategic position, and keeping that background in mind, they have agreed to partner with us in this huge project.
Yes, I think that when analysts say that CPEC is essentially the flagship project of the Belt and Road Initiative, they're completely right, because what is most important for China is to avoid the Strait of Malacca, or what is otherwise known as the Malacca dilemma. Essentially, 80% of China's oil exports come through the Strait of Malacca. What CPEC tends to do is, through the Gwadar port, it avoids that Malacca dilemma. Instead of going through the Strait of Malacca and enduring all of that political loss and all of that economic loss, what CPEC essentially does is saves China a lot of money, where we can essentially use the Gwadar port and make trade successful for both China and Pakistan. So I think as far as our strategic position is concerned, it is just as equally important for China as it is for Pakistan, the CPEC project.
As far as even the first phase is concerned, that achieved, the roads, the framework, the energy projects that we saw, the goals that we saw being achieved under the phase 1. Also, are a case in point for the kind of what we can expect from phase 2, and whether, and how much we can build on that as far as Pakistan and China together and that cooperation is concerned.
I think essentially the pessimism that is mainly surrounding CPEC is mainly due to the idea that
because of the delay also,
yes,
and because of the security challenges that have unfortunately permeated the scene.
Exactly, and I think that primarily has to do with the instability that Pakistan essentially goes through almost every 3 to 4 years.
But I think things are better in that sense, of course, that we are looking at a stable government, we are looking at things stabilizing, dollar stabilizing overall.
For now, I guess.
For the economy stabilizing. And so, looking at now, the trend is that perhaps, we can look for a stable Pakistan with
Yes.
perhaps, you know, more inroads economically.
Yes, and that is the case for now, and let's hope that
It stays
remains
that
the
way,
case
of course,
for
of course.
you know, forever.
Right.
But
Thank you so
essentially,
much.
yes.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Barrister Talha Khawaja, thank you for
You're
joining
welcome.
us today. Dr. Talat Shabbir, thank you for being with us. Zia Banday, thank you for joining us today. As far as this visit of the Prime Minister is concerned, we expect there to be you know, it's not a mere optical visit. It's going to include perhaps, you know, tangibles. It's going to include real, it has real goals. It has real initiatives in mind as far as Pakistan's phase 2 CPEC is concerned, as far as trying to bring investment into Pakistan is concerned, in trying to ensure that there is overall stability, in trying to deal with the security challenges as far as China and the challenges to CPEC is concerned. And of course, let's hope that it will be able to achieve all those goals that it sets forward. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.